Thank you so much for having me here. Hello, everyone. I'm Luisa. I work at OneFootball. And today I'm going to speak with you about influencer marketing as an influencer, as a user acquisition tool. Let me share with you my screen. Cool. James, can you see? All right. I will take that as a yes, right? So influencer marketing as a user acquisition campaign. And here more specifically on how to track and analyze an influencer campaign. For today, I'm going to start speaking a little bit about OneFootball, what we do and how we run influencer marketing activities here. Then the second step will be to speak about the topic where you are watching, why you're watching this, that is how to track and analyze a campaign. So the things that you need to know to track and analyze your success. And then in the end, in case that's too advanced for you, I'm going to give you also some general influencer marketing tips for beginners, meaning what you need to make sure to have in place when you have an influencer marketing strategy on the starting level. OneFootball is a leading football platform. We cover 12 languages, so we have this in the app and web. We cover over 200 competitions, and we are a company based here in Berlin with over 240 employees. We are among the top 10 apps within the target audience, which is young generation here. We have really good reviews on the App Store, so you can see here, good ratings, 4.7 and also 4.8 on the App Stores. And this year has been a really important year for the company. The company has been here in Berlin open for more than 10 years. And this year, for the first time, we have a new identity and a new logo. So before, it was this green tone, very connected, especially with the football, and target with this traditional logo. That was a logo created in the 60s. And then we decided to have an approach, a more modern approach here, choosing, the black and white, and also this hype green that is the yellowish here that you can see in the detail. And we also have a new positioning that is important to show you before I move on with the influencer marketing activities, right? So here I would like to show you a video about this new positioning. Perfect. So I have now the app open, so I'm also in the live discussion. If you have questions, then in the end I will get back to it. So as you can see, we have a new brand, and influencer marketing was and it is a big role inside the company, has a big role inside the company for building the brand and also for acquiring new users since 2016, where we started the influencer marketing activities. To share some numbers with you, since the beginning of these influencer marketing activities, we publish with influencers over 220,000 videos and stories. This had in total 7.2 billion reach And currently we have over 4,000 influencers in our network. The mission of the influencer marketing team that is under performance marketing is to bring the best new user for the best price using influencer marketing. So there are the main two platforms that we use is YouTube and Instagram, especially because these ones has the highest amount of influencers available and also the click out option. We are structured into two divisions, the influencer marketing Latam that takes care of Portuguese and Spanish speaking countries, that is under my responsibility, and also the European division that covers German, Italian, English, and French. We have 6 languages covered with 19 people working on this. And this is also the team here that works on the newsroom. They are also covering the 6 languages. Now going to the point, the important point, right? How to track and analyze influencer marketing campaigns. As you know, many companies are adding influencers to their digital marketing mix, and that's not new since a couple of years, you know. The global spending, in this case, Instagram, it's only getting higher for this year, is expected over $8 billion that brands are investing on Instagram with influencers. And when there was a research by Linkia with influencer marketing professionals and marketing professionals in general, 40% of them ran 6 or more campaigns, influencer marketing campaigns in 2019, and 57% of them said that they were going to increase their budgets in 2020, which is a bit crazy for me, because when it comes to the biggest challenges in influencer marketing, in the same research, this professional said that the biggest challenge is to determine the return on the investments, right? So they invest a lot, but they still struggle to understand if it is worth it to invest this money. And of course, this is connected to our talk today, right? So how to track and analyze, because knowing how to track and analyze a campaign, you will be able to clearly see the results on the investment. I would like to do a recap with you here on the basic influencer marketing workflow. So basically, there are some steps. It could be many steps, but here I'm lowering down to 8 steps. The first one is to define the campaign goal, so the influencer campaign goal. Then after you have this goal, you have to research the influencers, check what they did in the past, you know. Then you approach them and you negotiate. If everything goes well, then you have to create a contract, document everything, and create a tracking link. Then after this, you have to share with the influencer the brand guidelines and also the tracking links. And then is the time that the step 6 here, the influencer sends to us the content, and we are either approving or asking for feedback. And after this process, the content is live. And then the last final step is about measuring the success of your campaign and then paying the influencer, right? So there are 3 times in this basic workflow, which is super important to really understand the return on investment, you know. The first one, when you define the campaign goal, you know, your campaign goal is going to be the one that also going to define the metrics. Then the second, the next one that is super important is when you are creating the contract and documenting everything and then creating the tracking link, because this will be able, this will help you to then in the final step to really measure your success of your campaign. So the steps to track and analyze an influencer marketing campaign starts by defining the campaign goals. The most common influencer marketing goals can be app installs, which are our case here, can be brand awareness, that sometimes these are connected. Maybe some brands want to reach new audiences. Some brands want to use influencer marketing to increase the sales, and so on. And here in this image that I encourage you to access this website from this Berlin company called The Shelf. So they have listed here a couple of more goals that you can have for your influencer marketing campaign. Brand awareness, you know, build a relationship, a trust relationship with your audience, and so on. So there are many options here. But what is important to know is that your campaign goals will define your metrics. When you have a campaign goal, it will be directly connected to a metric that you have to track, right? So, for instance, if the number of installs or app subscriptions, how many followers, how many impressions you have, how many email subscriptions, the clicks, the conversion rate, the click-through rate, the sale, there are many metrics, right? But what is important to know, and here I have a diagram that says here, okay, let's start. Does the metric align with your influencer marketing campaign goal? Yes, then you track. No, okay, is this metric really leading to an indicator of your company's success? Yes, then you track. No, don't track it. And avoid tracking metrics that are not really giving you any value, you know, not giving you any insights, because basically when you have data just because it's nice to have, they don't really have any value, you know. So the most common influencer marketing success measures here are, and this was also from our research with influencer marketing professionals, it's about the top one is engagement with 71%, then brand awareness, impressions, conversions, clicks, content quality, product sales, and less audience sentiment. So here in engagement, you have number of likes, shares, interactions. Then in impressions, you have the number of views and the reach. Then in the conversion, as you can see here, 55% only take that as a success metrics. And we have here app installs, email signups, you know, coupon usage, giveaway entries. And then for clicks, the traffic that is going to the App Store, for the website, or for a campaign landing page. Focusing here on the objective that is app installs, and we use this as a user acquisition goal, what I suggest you is that you don't analyze a campaign, an individual campaign, that you really analyze this performance, that you have a performance metric, and you analyze the basket, you know, you aim for bottom line numbers. And with this, you should track the total amount of impressions and reach, the number of clicks on the App Store, the App Stores, and the number of installs. You define a maximum CPI that this influencer should have to evaluate the performance of each one and makes the decision. But in the end, you are going to see here in the image, the one of the axes is the cost and the other one, the installs. The size of the circle is the average reach of the influencer. So you can see here on the bottom near the installs that you are going to have small influencers that sometimes they don't cost a lot, but they also don't bring much installs. But you're also going to have influencers that are medium, that bring a little bit more installs, and the big ones that sometimes they don't perform that well. So what happens is that sometimes you have here a huge influencer with a high reach that you strongly believe before closing the deal that he's going to rock, or that they are going to rock, and that they will perform well. But in the end, that's not the reality, you know. They didn't perform very well. They had a high cost, but not so many installs. But also something that quite often happens when you are working with a basket strategy is that you have a super small influencer, and they, you know, are working hard on their channel. They are not charging a lot for you to work with them, and they have a video that is trending, and then suddenly you have a lot of installs for a very low cost, you know. So in the end, you're not really evaluating one by one, but actually the basket. And what you always should aim is actually something like this, where you have a high amount of install with a moderate cost. Just that we are in the same page here, also in terms of content, I would like to go one by one with you with the metrics that here at OneFootball we track for influencer marketing campaign. And in general, in the market, this is also what happens, you know? So starting from the beginning, when you're choosing the platform, right? You have to choose a social media that allows the click out. Otherwise, you cannot basically measure the performance easily. There is YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and so on. Here, we work mainly with YouTube and Instagram. The total cost that you're going to have for your campaign depends on your negotiation. If it's a pre or post performance fixated. So when you have pre-performance, you negotiate a fixed deal with the influencer. When it's post-performance, then you are depending on their performance to really make the payment. The amount of videos and stories per campaign really depends on the campaign objective and also the influencer size. The higher reach the influencer has also means a higher cost. And when you are working in a basket strategy for user acquisition, you shouldn't aim for the most costly ones. You have to have a mix, you know? The reach and the impressions. This is connected to the platform you chose and also to the time frame that you define, right? There are some that are obvious. For instance, Instagram, you know that there is no click out on the feed post, so for performance, you need to work on the stories. On the stories, you have 24 hours, so the time frame is already defined for you. But what about YouTube? YouTube, once the influencer uploads the video is there forever or until he removes the video, right? So what is important here is that you define a time frame. The time frame can be 1 day, 1 week, or 1 month, up to you. The important thing here is that you define a time frame that is equal for all the influencers. The CPM. CPM is basically the cost per 1,000 impressions or reach. The conversion rate is the installs divided by the impressions or reach. The clicks, basically how many people click on the link. And for this information, you are going to have the support of a mobile measurement partner. This is going to be a data that is going to be provided by them. The CTR, basically the clicks divided by the impressions or reach. The installs, also how many people install using the tracking link. Also, this is an information that comes from the mobile measurement partner data. The CPI, the cost divided by the installs, and then you have the CPI. I want to give you 2 examples here. One is for Instagram and one is for YouTube. This is just a fantasy example. This is not real. To basically give you an idea of the things that we measure and that we should keep track on the documentation. There are some information that you can predict. The first, basically 3 lines here, you can more or less predict, right? The total costs, the stories, the stories or the video, the reach, right? So in this case, for Instagram, we had a total cost of 1,000 euros. And we negotiated 4 stories with the influencer. Each one of the stories had 25,000 impressions, therefore 100,000 impressions. The CPM was 10 euro. The conversion rate was 1%. The clicks we had 5,000 clicks on these campaigns. Basically, the click here is the swipe up. We have a click-through rate of 0.05. And installs, we have 1,000 installs and the cost per install was 1 euro. Then we keep track of this. So CPI 1 euro. Then we go to YouTube, right? We have the total cost. We have this definition about the day, the week, the month, right? That it depends to you. You have to define the time frame of reference here. So the CPM in this case with a reach of, let's say, 1 million in 1 week, we had a CPM of 1, the conversion rate 0.015, clicks 50,000, and here clicks is click in the description. The click-through rate 0.05, the installs 15,000, and because we invested 1,000 euros, we had a CPI of 0.06. You see, maybe I would see in this case Instagram, and I'll say maybe it doesn't make sense because Instagram is much more expensive. But in the end, in the basket, it makes sense because you are always going to have, it's not always the same cost. Sometimes you have a higher cost, a lower cost, and in the average, it makes sense that you keep these influencers running. I'm going to give you here, in the next slide, 2 examples. One, it's a huge influencer that is also a celebrity, and the other one is a small influencer. Unfortunately, I cannot share the real data, but I can tell you that both had the same amount of installs, but with really different costs. So here on the left side, you can see Zé Roberto, former football player, and on the right is a Chile influencer.
Não baixou o OneFootball ainda? A partir de hoje você pode assistir futebol de graça pelo app. Todos os jogos do campeonato alemão ao vivo. Arrasta para cima e baixe o app.
¡Ay, qué rico! Por fin un break. ¿Qué partido hay hoy día? ¡Ah! El Bayern Múnich con Borussia Dortmund. ¡Partidazo! ¡Ah, una garra! ¡Papá, la tele no funciona!
Sí, cortaron el cable, pero ahora la Bundesliga la dan por OneFootball.
¿Por OneFootball? Pero si OneFootball solo da noticias. ¡No me lo creo! ¡Le damos la bienvenida a la Bundesliga OneFootball! ¡Absolutamente todos los partidos! ¿Qué? ¿Pero cuánto van a cobrar por esto? ¡Gratis! ¡Sigue siendo gratis! ¡Gracias, OneFootball!
Link para descarga gratuita en la descripción.
When I mentioned in the beginning that we need a click out, in this case for Instagram, swipe up, so you need over 10,000 followers to have this feature. And then in YouTube, then you have the video description. Mobile measure apartment, something that I mentioned before that you need is, so basically what it is this is a company that is an independent company that offers you the service of tracking, organizing, visualizing all the data from your app, you know, and then they give you the view of the campaign performance across different acquisition channels and across different partners. So you can have all your data information in one place. We at OneFootball, we use Adjust. But the thing is, just having a MMP partner, you know, to support you on the tracking link doesn't help, that doesn't really solve all your problems, because we already know that the behavior from the users vary from platforms and from countries and from age, and there are many variables here. And one of these variables that we know is that not all countries behave all the same with the clicking in the link. So when the influencer is actually inviting their audience to download, you know, download now, link in the description, people don't like to click. They avoid because they don't know if it's trustworthy, you know. And also the other, I would say, dilemma is that users or the audience is usually watching the laptop and the laptop YouTube, and then they are using also the mobile phone. So you have what I call here the second screen dilemma. That is something that I even last year in this here also, somebody asked me, you know, I see that my influencers campaigns, they had an impact on my stalls, but the users are a majority organic, you know, they are giving an increase on the organic. How do I really measure their real impact? And then I have here a suggestion for you. So basically you have to evaluate the organic uplift of your installs in a time frame from 3 to 6 months. So in this case, this is also a fantasy case where you have here in one axis the organic installs that you can see from January to April is low. And then in May, you start running influencer marketing campaigns, and you can see an uplift in the organic installs, right? So basically, you have to keep doing like this, because you are not going to see these installs coming from the link, right? Because people are not using the tracking link. They are coming directly to the App Store. So you have to calculate here, what is the organic baseline, basically. You have to calculate what is the organic uplift, and you have to define a factor. Basically, this factor is a number that you're going to trust that your campaigns are bringing. In this case here, it's times 12. So you know that for every tracking install of influencer, there are another 12 that are coming here by themselves, right? They are coming to the App Store without any tracking link. So to give you a recap here, you know, I'm in the final minutes now. What is important is that the goals that you define for your campaign are also going to define the metrics you have to really track, you know. For user acquisition with influencer marketing, you need to have a MMP to track the metrics. And final, not all the installs will come tracked. You will see them as an organic uplift that is not connected, you know, when you are checking this in the MMP, you're not going to see them as in the influencer marketing box. But then once you know your factor, and this varies from industry to industry, from vertical and so on, you have to find your unique influencer marketing factor to know the real importance. I'm done with this part about tracking and analyzing, but I know that not all of you is already on this level of influencer marketing campaigns. So I would like to give you some general influencer marketing tips, you know, for you that is beginning here. You're going to see that there are many aspects that you have to take care. Budget, how much money you invest, legal team, finance, documenting these campaigns, how to do the activations, influencers, globalization, and testing. You know, there's a lot of topics. But a couple of quick make-sures on what you should have to take into consideration to have a successful influencer marketing campaign. Make sure that you have a defined budget, meaning you have to define how much money and for how long you are going to stick to it, this testing strategy. When it comes to legal, don't do campaigns with influencers without having a contract, you know, and make sure that your legal team is able to absorb the amount of contracts that you're sending. On the same level, make sure that your finance team is able to make all the payments that you are going to need, because otherwise, if the influencers don't get paid, they don't want to work with your brand again. Documentation is the most important for tracking and analyzing, so put all the information you have from the influencer and their performance in one place. About the activations, make sure that you define like a general framework to start working, you know, start small and then increase. About the influencers, make sure that you give flexibility, that they use their language and also they are able to create about your brand briefing. About globalization, make sure that you understand the differences among the performance. You know, there are some countries that are more professionalized than others in terms of influencer marketing, and therefore they cost more. And the final one is make sure that you always do this testing with different types of influencers. My last thoughts to share here and to finish my presentation are basically building an influencer marketing network takes time and effort, you know. It is important that you count on a mobile measurement department to track all your influencer marketing activities. Define an expected bottom line per market, you know, don't try one size fits all. You know, the results vary greatly depending on the influencer network available, their vertical, and the level of professionalization. And lastly here, analyze the influencer marketing campaigns as a basket. Thank you so much for watching me here. Really appreciate participating here. Thank you.
Hi, Luisa. That was great. Thank you. So we've got a few questions, which I'm going to field. So let me see. Okay, you've kind of got access to it as well. Can you see those questions yourself?
Yes.
I'll let you sort of
Yes.
field them then, yeah.
So Kathleen asked me, how do you find the right influencers? Do you use a research tool? We tested a lot of research tools, and we agree here, everybody that works in the department, that the best way is really looking into the platforms and having, you know, accounts that are dedicated for your industry. You know, for us, we have a separated YouTube and a separated Instagram only to follow the accounts, the most relevant. And then the algorithm will always show you other suggestions, and this will make it easier for you to find new influencers. So I would say search on the platforms because it's the most effective way. The second question is from Peter. When you have found relevant influencers, what is the most efficient way to reach out? How do you get noticed and establish trust if you're not a big name like OneFootball? Is using the communication channels. Basically on YouTube, you send a message, right, on their platform, or you send an email. That's the most efficient way. Instagram is hard. You had to really have some effort here. And sometimes we use Twitter to get noticed. So we tweet to the influencer so he knows that we want to contact them as a company. It also works. But in the end, if it's too hard to work with these influencers, go to the next level, you know, just switch to another influencer. Otherwise, you're losing too much time trying to contact someone. Leah, how do you measure really the audience sentiment after a campaign? I think there are some tools here. You can write me after and I can send you my presentation, and I have there all the links, including the one from Linkia, where you can read more about the audience sentiment. Okay, Leah? The next one is the video from the beginning to find somewhere? Good question, Lucas. I have to check. I had access to the file here from the company, but again, if it's something that you would like to see it again, you can send me an email and asking and tell me what is the purpose of it, and I will happily share with you. And yeah, I think I've
got a couple of questions for you, Luisa.
Yeah?
Well, we've got you and we've got a bit of time before the next one. Yeah. One question I have is, you know, it's obviously a great channel influencer, but especially the way you just, you know, we always hear it described, it seems like, you know, a huge amount of work and operational overhead. And unlike an ad network where you can automate stuff, you can have, you know, tools to help you and APIs. It seems like a lot of this is pure kind of, you know, hard work. You've got to be constantly messaging, you know, individual influencers, sending them links, setting up, tracking, harassing them. Have you posted this? Checking. You know, it just sounds like an operational nightmare. So, you know, what are your tips for getting through that? Is it just a case of being very organized, or, you know, are there any tools to automate some of this stuff?
I think interesting that you say this, because one of the main characteristics of the influencer marketing professional is resilience. You have to really push the influencer and, you know, come up with new ideas and do the operational work, have the creativity and so on. So from the beginning, when we started working with influencer to now, there was an evolution also on the way we do the documentation, as I call in the presentation. In the beginning, we had a spreadsheet, a Google Sheets that we track, you know, the links, the influencer videos, the reach, how much we pay, and so on. And because we knew this was a very operational work, we also developed internally a tool that really helped us. So it's a tool developed by a company specifically for us to cover influencer marketing activities. So in the same tool, from scouting until paying the influencers, is everything in one place. And of course, there's a lot of operational work. Yes, especially the part about communicating and aligning the campaign. So in this, just to give you an idea, each manager here in the company works more or less with 50 accounts. Sometimes one account can mean one video, one account can produce 10 videos a month. So it really depends. But you have to be organized, either if you don't have the resources yet, to organize everything on a Google Sheets or Excel, or when you are far ahead, then that you have a tool to support you in this. But organization and keeping all the data, I think, is the key.
Got it. So, right. Well, that's quite, so yeah, one manager for 50 influencers. So yeah, to scale across multiple geographies, and yeah, I could see you know, it's, you need pretty soon need a big team. I guess it's good for influencer marketers. They can't be automated away yet. And yeah. Another question I had was around, you were talking about the CPI and then, you know, maybe some of the organic uplift. Obviously there's a huge amount of kind of brand value as well. You know, you may see if I'm seeing you know, and we've just been talking about incrementality, but and attribution, but what surely there's if you do a lot of influence activity, and you'd probably see some improved results in your other channels, right? If people are being exposed to influencer stuff, and then they get, you know, a display ad or a Facebook ad, you know, that probably seem, how do you sort of measure and capture all that benefit?
I think the main benefit here is when you work on YouTube for influencer marketing, because the videos that you publish, they stay there in the platform forever, right? Like I said, until the influencer removes the video, they're there. So when you do these type of things, you still have working tracking links from 2016 working. People still watch this video. So when you negotiate, especially evergreen content, so content that is always fresh, and usually this is connected to entertainment, you're always going to have people watching these videos and then generating installs even after the time frame that you define for performance. So my suggestion here is that if you need to start from a place, start from YouTube, you know, start working, and then you are going to see this, that month after month, you're going to see more installs from campaigns in the past, because they are still generating these installs. And then you're going to see that this uplift is going to increase.
Got it. And finally, to mention the F word, the IDFA, you know, what impact you think that's going to have on you, you know, in terms of tracking and all that stuff?
So we have here a committee specifically for that, with many participants. I think on influencer marketing will be less impact, you know, but I think overall for the company is something super important to keep track. And that's for, we are keeping track with the news and creating this committee to see any update and how this will be impacting next year.
Great. So yeah, that's interesting. You say maybe less on influencer. So yeah, could be a reconfiguration of some of the channels, you know, we see next year. So great. Well, Luisa, that was a fantastic presentation. I'm really glad I could actually see it this year. Last time I only caught bits and bobs when I was running around the 5 different rooms, and I could see everyone was enjoying it, and now I know why. So yeah, really happy you could share that with a wider audience today. And yeah, I hope we can see you next year in person.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here. It was a pleasure to participate.
Great. Thanks, Luisa.
Thank you. Bye-bye.